Hello everyone and welcome to the Redmen TV and today's Liverpool News Update Show. I'm Ste Horde, joined by the wonderful Mr. Paul Machen to have a chat about everything that's going on in and around Liverpool Football Club. Some potential outgoings, some pretty nailed on outgoings, some potential incomings as well, and a little bit more. We'll see about. I mean, don't count your chickens. If we've learned anything over the last week on that regard, it's don't count any chickens.
What is the new Anfield or Melwood Lean? What's the new Melwood Lean? What's the new thing that we're? You know what I mean? Like if that shorthand for I won't be talking about a transfer until I see them leaning at Melwood was the old school one. Like we won't know because we're not signing players anymore. So at some point we'll sign a football and we'll know and we'll be able to communicate with each other in that wonderful shorthand.
The AXA photo shoot or something.
Yeah. It was like we had Dr. Zaff used to do like the topless leg squeeze. There was that for a while. Yeah. There was the lean. There was they obviously got obvious unveiling videos and what have you. But yeah, anyone know anyone have any ideas what they'd like it to be? Let us know in the comments.
I can't remember last year how these all. It was they often do the Liverpool like doing the thing on socials, don't they? Where like 5 minutes before they're about to announce it, there's like a little drop of something. Like with McAllister, it was the song. Or with Thiago, he was whistling the tune.
It's the unpinned post on the Liverpool Twitter account, isn't it? Maybe. That's one of them. That's a little. Although they do that for like partnership announcements, and everyone's they've unpinned the main post. What's happened? Oh, they've signed up with Lucas 8. Cool. Like, yeah. Which, by the way, if you don't get John Barnes back for that partnership, you're doing it wrong. Anyway, carry on.
Absolutely showing your age there, Paul. Well, how old is that advert?
Yeah, isotonic Lucas 8 Sport.
90s?
Gets you thirst fast. That was probably late 80s, early 90s, Lucas 8 Sport.
Yeah.
Well, Lucas 8 Sport used to come in like foil pouches.
I think a lot of people watching the show, listening to the show, weren't even alive.
A lot of people watching who would get this are probably working at this time of the day. So yeah, definitely.
If you listen to this podcast, let us know. If you got that reference, let us know. And if you didn't, then yeah, you can let us know that as well. And how badly we're aging here at Redmen TV. Let's make a start then, Paul. We're going to speak about what it looks like as an outgoing from Liverpool Football Club, but maybe a bit of a surprise actually, especially in terms of the fee. Paul Joyce reported late last night, and it's been clarified obviously elsewhere as well. Liverpool have agreed a deal with RB Salzburg for Bobby Clark. A 10 million asking price has been met. Liverpool also have a 17.5% sell-on included in the deal. So yeah, £10 million. Like when Fabio Carvalho went, and you're like, oh, that's a really good deal. You know, £20 odd million, could be £27 million, and there's a sell-on fee. Like £10 million in this day and age doesn't really move the needle so much. Where you think, oh, that was a no-brainer. You had to sell him for that. Like it's £10 million.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, when they started briefing, the 12 million was what they wanted, and you know they were like it was by 5, and then it was like 6-ish, and then I think we said on Monday on the podcast when it looked like they were going to come back with 10. I think I said that'll get him. 10 will get him there. The fact that they've added the clause on top feels nicely sort of Liverpool, and I think you're right to raise the Carvalho stuff. And what Liverpool are excellent at is selling footballers, or certainly when Michael Edwards is employed in and around the football club, because they're very good at benchmarking. And but the problem is, if you're then benchmarking Carvalho against someone else, so probably one of the random Aston Villa players that moved who never kicked the ball, but then Carvalho then becomes a benchmark, and Carvalho's got a season and a half of scoring goals in the Championship. He's got Premier League experience, probably as much as probably about similar to what Bobby Clark's got actually, or maybe fractionally more. So Bobby Clark falls beneath that benchmark. Yeah. It's just to reiterate Dan's point, I think we did this on the Bias Football transfer podcast on Monday, was what's the point? For 10 million quid, could you not keep him for another year or two and keep his development, or just put him out on a loan? That's the thing that's awkward about it.
I think, and I've got a theory on this, and I'll put it to you. I think when you come from a footballing family, and your half fella's played a professional footballer and a professional football manager, and knows the ins and outs of how footy works, if Bobby Clark's had the nod, listen mate, it's a season under the 23s, or we'll try and find you a loan, I wouldn't be shocked if you've gone, mate, get out of there. Yeah. You know what I mean? What they're saying they're going to use you, but like they're looking to sign another midfielder. They've got like 8 midfielders who are all full internationals. What are you waiting for? Can't look at Tyler Morton. You might go loan and then be sold anyway. Yeah. Like I wonder if you know, again, Lee Clark, who knows footy inside out, played for years in the Premier League, has managed in the EFL and at lower levels. I wonder if he said to his son, listen mate, get out of there. 2, by the way, the guy who you can say was a major part of putting him in the first team last year. And Blinders clearly wanted him. He was like a big target for him. So from Bobby Clark's point of view, he's like, well, I could go on loan, or actually, I might as well get out of here.
I think from Bobby Clark's perspective, it makes perfect sense. It's just there's always a tinge with this stuff of, particularly because we've been so impressed by so many of the young players that we're a bit like, you're a bit taken aback when they're not part of the plans. It feels like, well, hang on, is this a bit of a backward step? Why have you raised these lads if you're not going to use them? The weirdest way I can put it to analogize it is, bear with me on this one, ladies and gentlemen. Did you watch Glee?
Yes.
So Glee, right? What you've got is a class there full of like these super talented singers, performers, but in reality, they're every one of the characters on Glee is good enough to go on the West End and go on Broadway and all that, because it's a TV show and it's a bunch of people who are already that good. But in reality, if you've got a class full of talented people, at best, one of them will make it. And that's a bit of the thing that we're seeing here now, is that we've got these really promising crop, but only so many of them ever going to get into your first team. And when you look at what we've got, and some of them are a little bit older now, but like, and I know we've signed a couple of them later on in their careers, but like Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, Ryan Gravenberch, you've got Jarell Quansah's the one who, and Connor Bradley, and particularly those two actually broke into the first team in the last 12 months. That's an unbelievable return. It's a shame that he's not going to be the next in line for that, but sometimes, you've got to sort of let someone go to like allow their development to continue, and also maybe not block a pathway, because right now it just looks like Trey Ione is the one that they're preferencing over almost everyone else. Well,
that was the last point. Like we don't really know, but like Arne Slot might just say, listen, he's not going to play. He isn't what I want. Like we all see Bobby Clark is a great player, and we were told, I think on record and a little bit off record last year, like Liverpool had big high hopes for him for 2 years. Actually, as soon as they got him from Newcastle, I think it was, everyone was bigging up that they thought they had. But that was Jurgen Klopp, that was Pep Lijnders, that was Vita Matos. They're all gone. Like Arne Slot and his team might have come in and said, listen, he's a good player, but he's not going to do what we want him to do. So you might as well, for his career, let him go. I suppose that's an option. Like this is what happens, Paul, when like we're not used to it, but when you change managers, like players leave. Well, certain players come and go. Like what you're asking. That now the academy will go through a whole restructure, because they will no longer be taught Jurgen Klopp football. They're all about to be taught Arne Slot football.
Yes.
And in that mix, things will come and things will go, and things like Trey Ione went from being, with all due respect, like he was on the bench a couple of times, made one appearance. Now he's the next youngster. Like things can change that quickly when a new manager comes in.
Yeah, definitely. The example I gave earlier on in the week was Danny Murphy under Rafa Benitez. Could have had a really good Liverpool career. There was no need to sell Danny Murphy, but actually the new manager needed a bit of money, looked around and decided he wanted Xabi Alonso more, which is fair. And this is different because it's young players, of course, but I don't think if we'd played Champions League football last season, we'd have seen anywhere near as much of Jarell Quansah, Connor Bradley and Bobby Clark as we did. And then you're probably not as attached to these players, whereas in reality what we should probably look at it is that flipping it sad for Bobby Clark, but I say we should be made up that we managed to get 2 more young players into the first team, rather than the ones that haven't quite cracked it yet.
Speaking of which, then maybe players who again, going out from Liverpool's academy, young Lucas Stevenson set to join Dundee United on a season-long loan. So we've seen a bit of Lucas Stevenson actually in pre-season. Obviously Trent's absence, Joe Gomez's absence meant Liverpool needed a full-back cover of Connor Bradley, but often it was Lucas Stevenson who was deputising there. So he's had a good tour of America.
I did wonder a little bit with him, because we have seen quite a lot of him. There was a moment there where, if you're going to move Trent into midfield, then keeping Lucas Stevenson around kind of makes sense, because Connor Bradley's your right back, and then you've got a young, exciting sort of understudy. But I think more and more now, as we crank towards the season starting, those younger lads who are just somewhere in between, too good for under-21s football, not quite good enough for senior football, we're going to see a lot more of these kind of moves. And look, again, mentioned Dundee, good move for Owen Beck last year. If we can have continue
it might be a different Dundee.
That's why I said Dundee. The
city of Dundee. Dundee United, he is going to Dundee United.
So, just something about being, he had a good move up to the city of Dundee.
We're going there in a few weeks. We need to make sure we don't get lynched when we get there.
Yeah, well, look, if I survived Northern Ireland / the north of Ireland, I think I'll be all right in Dundee. So yeah, anyway, yeah, fine. He looks promising, and he also looks a little bit like Alberto Moreno, but perhaps
Ginger.
Yeah.
If Alberto Moreno and Sepp Vandenberg had a child, it would very much like Lucas Stevens. So good luck to him up at Dundee United. Right then, let's move on to a potential incoming, and again, this one's mad. It really is the goalkeeper, but what I'm going to, just to clarify, as it stands, the latest from the Athletic was that Liverpool are still exploring the deal. Dan spoke to Nacho Sanchez, Spanish journalist, yesterday. I think it was who confirmed that the personal terms are done. €4 million a year contract has been offered, accepted by the player. Now it's up to Liverpool and Valencia to A, come to terms on some type of monetary deal, and then B, figure out how the hell they're going to get him on loan somewhere without breaking Premier League rules and things like that around signing and loaning players. So as it stands, it looks like this is on the card. So it's future-proofing. They're getting a very promising goalkeeper. The stats suggest he's an even better goalkeeper, room to grow, 23 years old. Mm-hmm. This is Liverpool future-proofing for a department that they're already really strong in. So what are your thoughts on this one?
I'm a big fan of this. So FSG hired, I forget the guy's name, but
Hans Leitert.
Yeah, so he's been around the club for, in years gone by. He's referenced in Ian Graham's book quite a lot, but the head of global goalkeeping, basically. So what it means is they're having an oversight on goalkeepers in general, and this feels like, €30 million, it could even be slightly more by the time they get the deal agreed. It feels like a lot of money for a lad who's not going to play for us this season. But this is why I always find the dichotomy with FSG so interesting, is that people go skinflint, they don't spend money, and yet they never stop buying players. They just don't necessarily buy first teamers to the same sort of volume. And again, you read Ian Graham's book, and it's because they've got a principle of, if they can't guarantee that lad's going to be at least as good as what's already in the first 11, then they don't bother wasting the money on it. But they recruit a lot of young players. They spend money in more than most clubs do in that area to bring things through. And in this one, we've got a lot of very young, good goalkeepers, but there's a smartness here, because when you've got a world-class one, you keep him. But what happens when that world-class one dips out of being world-class? You've got to notice that happen. Like Man United never did with De Gea. They kept De Gea probably 5 years longer than they should have done. And it's because he's the benchmark, it's hard to recognise when the benchmark has slipped a little bit low. So actually, you've got Kelleher there, who's brilliant. If you can go and get another lad of that age bracket in who's brilliant, and then almost it gives you the potential to play one off the other and say, well, if Kelleher wants to leave, sound, we've got this lad coming in. If Kelleher wants to stay, well, we're going to move Alisson on maybe next summer, and we've got two guys there who are both at a similar level. Go and duke it out. Who wants to be Liverpool's number one? Smart.
I agree to a point.
It's just it's shit timing when you tell everyone you're after the 6 and you don't buy a 6, and then everyone's like, you're spending £30 million on a goalie who's not going to be in your squad this season.
And you've got two. It was good. I suppose the question becomes there. I'm all for future-proofing. Liverpool didn't future-proof DM, and that's why we're in the mess they're in now. Yes. But the future-proofing for Alisson, in theory, should have been Keith Kelleher. And also, he's 31, Alisson. It's not like you don't have to worry about him, unless he's give the nod that he fancies going. Or, like you said, there's something in the stats, or there's something they've noticed, or the injury record, which I think we can all hold up as Alisson's biggest weakness. Yeah. Maybe someone like Hans or whatever, or someone's decided actually now is the time to get ready, because you don't want to be caught short. And if you can find the potential next world-class goalkeeper for less than 30 million quid, you'd be mad not to do it. In isolation, I think it makes sense, but you are right. The fact that they're doing it now when there's other issues is kind of.
You can be look. This is the complication. You can be annoyed that Liverpool aren't buying players, outfield players, but also commend forward thinking in other areas. But I think it becomes very binary. This becomes like a myopic focus on this one thing. Zubimendi. And then why aren't people doing other business? Well, they are. That to me again speaks to actually a longer term vision. It's not as headline grabbing. And if you're in a banter war with your mates online telling you that we're signing a £30 million goalie for possibly next season, is not going to claw any embarrassment back for you if you feel embarrassed. If you're the kind of person who feels embarrassed by Liverpool signing or not signing footballers, I mean, I'm not that person, but if you feel that way, this is not going to help you in that regard. But for me, I look at it and say, Liverpool have got a crisis on the horizon that people aren't really talking about, and that crisis is when Alisson goes, anyone who follows him will be worse, because there is no one better. So in the immediacy, so you've got to try and have something else in place there, and this feels good to me.
I was saying I've criticised them for the lack of, like say, the forward thinking on the DM stuff. When Henderson and Fabinho, there was clear signs of decline there, and maybe it was meant to Stefan Bajcetic, I might be doing them a disservice, but there was no actual and in the end they end up panicking and end up getting endo. It'd be wrong for me to criticise them for that and then not applaud them for doing what I wanted them to do, albeit in a different position. So it's a bit of both, but you are right. The fact is, I think he's a very good goalkeeper from what I've seen with this Philly, and if they get done, we'll find out. But like I say, I don't think it's going to appease anybody, and nor should it, because Liverpool probably still have other business to do. Let's talk another, again, I say potential outgoing. This is via the guys on Anfield sector, but it's referencing our good mate. Is it Pipe Sierra, who's a Colombian journalist? He was all over when Liverpool were signing Luis Diaz. He was all over that particular deal. So I don't think it's far-fetched to suggest he's got some tentacles in the Diaz camp, for lack of a better phrase. He was reporting today. Is that made you laugh?
Yeah.
Like he's a giant Colombian octopus.
Yeah. There's probably sex connotations in there as well, but
like
it's
a sex octopus.
Sextopus.
Sextopus. That does sound like a film.
It hasn't got enough tentacles if it's a sextopus. Anyway, he's always got one extra.
Anyway, let me go back to, away from sexy octopuses, let's get back to the club. So according to Pipe's reporting, Barcelona are making efforts to sign a winger, and the priority of Deco is, of course, to sign Luis Diaz. He is the sport director, for those who don't know. Former little tiny teeny player who was really good. Liverpool could allow Diaz to leave for around €60 million. If Barca pay what Liverpool ask, they will let him leave.
Deco was a proper hipster football fan player.
When he moved to Chelsea, he was one of those ones who moved to Chelsea and never did anything really positive, but for a while he was awesome.
At Barcelona, if you could say because he did the Porto thing as well, there was a lot of I know football because I know Deco. And another one of those was born somewhere else and became, he was Brazilian, wasn't he, and became a Portuguese international, setting the path for countless
everyone else,
Costas and that followed. Anyway, Deco, I'd love to see a little bit of a mention. I'm a big fan of the art style and of the footballer, so yeah, very, very good. Anyway, back on topic again. I'm in a fucking daft mood today, I apologise. Is €60 million enough for Luis Diaz?
No, I don't think Liverpool would accept that. I think that's wrong. There's a load of things to untie with this one, so let's start with this one. Barcelona are currently unable to register players because they've got their wages are out of control. So they need to lose players before they sign players. So that's definitely option number one.
I mean, that's 3 years on the bounce now.
Dani Olmo, as it stands, can't play against Valencia this weekend. He's their marquee signing, great player, and they can't get him registered in time for the game. Barcelona are a bit of a shambles. So that everything we say in this next section, bear that in mind. They're going to have to sell players. Now, they're in the process of trying to do that. I think there's lads going all over Europe trying to. There's a Barcelona fire sale happening where they're desperately trying to get players off the books. I know Bournemouth, Everton, there's loads of players being linked around to all these type of clubs. But they wanted Nico Williams, they haven't been able to get him. It looks like they've turned their attention to Luis Diaz. And I mentioned this to Paul Gorst, Paul on JNO Insight. We are well adverse and we are well aware of how the Barcelona PR machine works when they want a player. We've been there time and time again. This smells very, very familiar. I know how Barcelona go about getting players out of Liverpool because I've seen them try it and I've seen them succeed.
Yes.
This is it. This is how it starts. It starts with interest is out from good sources. The transfer fee is always way lower than what you think it's going to be anyway. But the interest is leaked. The fella's dad's talking about it. They're doing interviews with parents. This is all very, very familiar. Yeah. So if you're worried about Liverpool losing Luis Diaz, the alarm bells would ring.
Important lesson for all people who have ambition to be in football. There might be one or two of you watching in the comments. Keep your dad away from the media. Good top-level professional footballers keep their dads away because dads can't stop talking about their sons being footballers. It's a pride thing, but it becomes a little bit of a millstone around your neck. So his dad needs to shut up if he's continuing to talk about this. Diaz has done everything in his power, I think, to pour cold water on this, because we've been given him. I've heard people criticising Luis Diaz for stuff that his dad's saying. It's like, mate, you trying to. I mean, tell your dad to not say things. Your dad is a very outspoken sort of character. My dad's quite a quiet and reserved sort of guy by all accounts. But most of us,
if Big Stan wants to speak, Big Stan's speaking.
Yeah, exactly. My kids tell me not to talk. You know what I mean? It just doesn't happen. €60 million is too low. We paid 50 for him, so I would be shocked if we weren't asking for more than that. The Barcelona thing is appealing. I think he's too good to play for Barcelona, and I don't mean Barcelona, the world-class institution, the one that has won European Cups and La Ligas and owned Messi. I mean the Barcelona that can't afford to register footballers. They have been going on a bargain hunt of formerly world-class footballers since they were pulling their financial levers. So as much as Lewandowski's obviously a terrific player and Gundogan's a terrific player, they've been trying to hoover up lads who are either just about big enough names to appease their fans, who can play a bit, or guys who are entering the twilight of their career. And for me, Diaz is neither of those. This is a bit like, for me, if he got linked with a Saudi Pro League move, I'm like, mate, you're too good. And I know they're there or thereabouts. They'll be there or thereabouts in La Liga. They'll be there, but they'll be in the Champions League. They're not going to win the Champions League. They won't be anywhere near that.
Can I put it to you? If we believe as that, like he'd always wanted to play for Barcelona.
Yeah, I mean,
and that
me too.
No, but if you're Barcelona are knocking on your door, this is my point. Is that like for Liverpool to sell Luis Diaz, this is the problem. If the Barca PR machine's in full effect, and we don't know exactly where Luis Diaz's head's at, but if you believe his dad, he wouldn't half mind going to Barcelona.
He seemed happy when I bumped into him in the corridors at the AXA the other day. Is all I'll say.
He seemed happy when he scored a couple of goals the other day. Come back with his new bleach blonde hair.
Now there is a little thing there, because you can read this in two ways, can't you? Of like Xabi Alonso having one last great season for Liverpool before moving on to Real Madrid. So we could either be totally pumped and ready to hit the ground running for Liverpool this season, or it could be I'm in great form, excited for my big move to my boyhood dream club. I said to you off air before, if you're going to sell Diaz, then the second you put down the phone, you're picking the phone up to Newcastle, and actually probably moreover, I'd hope they're doing it the other way around. I'd be picking up the phone to Newcastle and going, right, how much do you want for Anthony Gordon? Okay, sound. Yes, let's go and do that. Particularly because they're not spending 50 million on Zubimendi now. Go and buy Anthony Gordon if that's who they really want. Go and get that done, and then have a conversation with Barcelona about shifting Luis Diaz.
No, that's the question. Is that at this point in time, I actually think Liverpool need another forward. So even selling one to buy one, I get it. I suppose. Again, we don't know what Arne Slot thinks of Luis Diaz. I saw Cody Gakpo in the interview today say, the manager thinks he's the left winger. So there's just something to note as well. He might not even think Luis Diaz is his best left winger. We don't know. We won't know that until further down the line.
Does he think Jota as a centre forward is an important part of this?
And he does. Well, he told me in the press conference, he called him a number 9. I spoke to him after the Arsenal game. Yeah. And he said he referenced, like, it's great. I can't exactly remember the terminology. I was very tired. But he said something along the lines of, he plays like a proper number 9, and that helps us so much when you've got someone. So I think he does see Diogo Jota as a 9. Yeah, would be my guess. In which case he's got choices to make. But you are right. I think the question would be, if you sell Luis Diaz, who you're buying, can you get Anthony Gordon? Because you can't. This is mad. Like Liverpool, the last thing Liverpool need to do is sell anyone else before they got.
Liverpool should not be selling any lads who are in their first 11 without getting more in. Because I can live with. I'm not happy with, but I can live with us not buying players, because we own a lot of really good footballers, and I've no doubt. And look, my general take on this, just to sidestep back to the Zubimendi stuff, because I've not really said it anywhere, and I can't be asked to film a whole video on it on my own, is I don't think Liverpool didn't win the league title last season because of a number 6 or a lack of a number 6. Liverpool fell short because they got a mad injury crisis, which hampered them across the board. If you've been able to get Mohamed Salah and Trent Alexander-Arnold on the pitch for 10 more games last season, I think we'd have just been better at football. So there's every chance that Liverpool are just better this year in general, but you don't weaken yourself. Add to what you've got. Don't take away, and certainly don't sell someone first, because it's forgivable missing out on targets, but where we fucked it last year was letting Fabinho and Henderson go, and then all of a sudden you've got no choice but to go and replace them, and that's when you end up making mad panic decisions because you've got a hole in your squad. Liverpool don't have a hole in their squad; they have got room for improvement, and that's different.
Yeah, see, I think I'm kind of half there with you. I think if everyone stays healthy, Liverpool will challenge for stuff. I do. Mm-hmm. I still think, as it stands, I still think they're the third best team though. and there's work to be, if you want to catch the ones above them, there's work to be done, and that work would have been. I think the only position you can improve in Liverpool's best 11 is that 6 role, and they must have thought that because they tried to do it, and they haven't. So we'll see how they pan out. But you are right. The last thing you need to do now is make yourself worse. Yeah. And if Liverpool sell Luis Diaz, I don't think the worst, with all due respect, for selling Bobby Clark, Fabio Carvalho. I don't, but if you sell Luis Diaz, who's a prominent member, whether he's first choice or first sub, then you need to go and buy someone who's better than him. And at this moment in time, that's tough.
He's starting Ipswich as it stands.
100%. He's
like, that's, you know what I mean? That's my point. And just one aside of this, by the way, is that in addition to players being fit, if you just worked on defensive structure, which I don't think we did last year, I think we worked on attacking structure or attacking freedom and being absolutely gung-ho, you might be able to make Liverpool a more solid unit just by coaching as opposed to all this, because Martin Zubimendi was not the player who was going to make Liverpool impenetrable at the back. They want him because he's better on the ball than Wataru Endo. That's why they want him. They didn't want him because he was like this, again, Fabinho, the octopus, who's covering every blade of grass across in front of the back four and shielding and doing all that super defensive work. They want him because he gets the ball under pressure, moves it really well, and and keeps the game ticking over. So yeah, Zubimendi wasn't there, but yeah, Luis Diaz anyway would be a loss to our overall quality of squad. But he is someone we could improve upon if you could get the right player.
I tend to agree. I think you could improve on Diaz if you sold him, but I don't think it's that easy. Like, for example, I think for next season, if you said you can have a year of Luis Diaz or a year of Anthony Gordon, I would pick Luis Diaz still.
Okay.
But I think Anthony Gordon is young enough where his ceiling is probably higher than Luis Diaz's ceiling.
He's faster than Diaz.
He's got the pace. If that, but I don't know how much that matters now. If we are going to be this ticky-tacker, I don't know what we're going to be, so it's hard to know that. But I
think you need the option, and I'm a little worried that if Darwin's behind Jota in the pecking order and Salah's lost a couple of yards of pace by this point, Diaz has lost. I mean, Diaz was electric when we signed him, but those injuries have robbed him of the top speed that he had, the electric pace. We could do with someone who's got, and Doak's got that, but clearly if they're moving Doak on, they're going to need to find someone else who's got that in there. Gordon would do that. But I honestly, I'd keep Diaz anyway. Simplest solution for me, because left-footed, goal-scoring, right-sided winger, inside forwards or whatever are at an absolute premium, which is, Salah's the king of them. Yeah. You do worse than move Diaz over to the right-hand side for me and then still bring Gordon in on the left. But
we've got a question
another topic for another day.
We've got a question here from Free Django. And it says, Steve, what are your thoughts on Richard Hughes? Genuinely, what is his vision? What did he present to the board? No signings, no backups to the person who rejected Madrid, and no contract renewals. There is a video coming out on the channel a bit later on Richard Hughes' start. I spoke to Paul Gorst about it. It's available now on redmenplus.com if you just go and sign up there for Genuine Insight. But we did speak about this. What I would say is the optics haven't been great for him so far, Paul. And to tie back into the last conversation, Liverpool didn't sign Anthony Gordon, for whatever reason. Didn't sign Lenny Yoro, didn't sign Martin Zubimendi. There are contract renewal talks that have seemingly got nowhere. Virgil van Dijk himself admitted the other day nothing's happened there.
Okay,
let me finish. Carry on. Yeah, I'm gonna come to the circumstances in a moment. And they're about to sign a goalie, who people, again, whatever you think about that one. And we were told that there's no other DMs coming in. From a top level view, you could look at Rich Hughes and go, bloody hell, does this guy know what he's doing?
Yeah.
On the flip side, Newcastle didn't want to sell him. That guy changed his mind. That guy changed. The price got too much for him.
Manchester United threw like 150 grand a week at an 18-year-old, as good as he might turn out to be, is mental. Like,
I agree.
If Real Madrid had wanted him, they'd have got him. But Man United went out. Yeah, again, look, there's different circumstances for all. The thing is, the context that you're talking about is that we're in the transfer window where everything is geared towards you've got to make signings, you've got to make signings, you've got to make signings. Liverpool don't work like that, and people think I'm some sort of like mad like cheerleader for FSG. I'm not. I just understand how they work, so it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers other people. I'm not saying like I want to live in a world where Liverpool don't make sense. That's fucking nonsense.
We make way. Just to clarify, this channel does way better on Liverpool sign players.
I love it when we sign
honestly,
footballers.
It's so much better.
I play football management games for transfer windows. I hate football management games now. They're too complicated, but I love the signing. I love the director of football of it. But I agree, from the optics of everyone signing players and Liverpool aren't, then that looks like bad. But from the optics of Liverpool, I've got a brilliant squad with loads of players who I've still got better to come. Like Szoboszlai, there's well more to come from him. There's more to come from McAllister. There's loads more to come from Gravenberch. So many players. Again, Conor Bradley only emerged last season. Quanta only emerged last season. These are young footballers, and very good footballers who've come nowhere near to playing their best for Liverpool yet, with a guy who actually prefers stability, and will hopefully put a bit more defensive structure in place as well. I'm just not that wound up by it anyway. But yeah, I keep banging on it. I'm trying to say I don't get any money for mentioning Ian Graham's book, but I'm like now 4/5 of the way through it. And it just settles me down, because what I've learned from working this job and from speaking to people that are experts in the industry, we've known this all along. We know how Liverpool's owners conduct themselves. They're not sugar daddy owners who are going to throw money at it. They'll spend money when it needs to be spent, and if they feel there's a player that is a unicorn and it's necessary to improve their squad, they'll go and spend it. We've seen that time.
But they were about to do it last week.
Yeah, exactly. We nearly did last year. We nearly spent £100 million on Caicedo, which totally undercuts everyone's think that this idea that the skin fronting won't pay the money when it needs to be paid. Ultimately, he was a gobshite, and good luck to him. He had a crap season at Chelsea because he chose to do that. You can't. We're all humans. I think we think that it's you press a button and it agreed and the player comes. Zubimendi's a shithouse. Zubimendi didn't want to leave, and I actually respect him staying at his hometown club, but he's a bit of a shithouse because he didn't want to move to a bigger football club with a bigger challenge. He wanted to be a big fish in a small pond. Football's littered with players like that. Matt Letizia, he's an absolute crackhead now, but he was one of them. Far too good to play for Southampton, but he enjoyed being the star at Southampton, and probably more recent young people examples of that as well. But you read Ian Graham's book, and he basically says this.
Do any of the more recent people talk about the weather being controlled by?
No, yeah, by the government, no, that's
about. Lisa says here, FSG will spend money when they need it to be spent. It needs to be spent now. I think the fact
does it though? Does it need to be spent now? I don't know. Maybe people know. Maybe people will say they know.
And also they did try. They literally were going to buy. They were trying to buy someone. They are very much aware. I think everyone's acting as if the window's closed. The window's not closed yet. It's like Liverpool they're about to buy a goalie. Now that might not be the position everyone wanted or need. Everyone thinks needed to be done, but they are about to do that very, very shortly. It looks like so. The money is there and it will be spent. I think what happens, and I think this frustrates a lot of people, and it half frustrates me, but I'm not used to it now that I can kind of get it, because I spoke to Dan and Club about this the other day. They won't be looking for positions really. They will have a player in mind, and it's specific. So they won't go, we need a number 6, but he doesn't want to come to us, so we'll just get the next one on the list. They very rarely do that, and I think they should sometimes, but they don't. And I'm half at peace with it. The one time they've done that, really.
Well, they do
occasionally, but not recently.
Maybe you're right on the recent thing, but they definitely do. But there's got to be the second on the list. There's got to be very similar in terms of what they were looking at. Yeah. And what have we seen in the number 6 market over the last 2 years? It's mental. You're talking about £100 million for footballers who are nowhere near that. We'd have all gone for it. We'd have all had Enzo Fernandez. We'd have all had Caicedo. I'm sorry, but there's no way there's 100 million plus value in either of those footballers from what we've seen so far. But yet they were, particularly Caicedo, they were prepared to do that. What does my head in is the stuff that follows on. When that doesn't go, you get these people go, they didn't really want to buy him. What they wanted to do was this 4D chess where they were convincing Chelsea to go and spend the price. Yeah. It's wild that people would even think that, rather than just think, but buy players when they're available, and if the players don't want to come, shit happens. No one else has done it better than Liverpool over the last 9 years, other than Manchester City.
People who are doing it fairly. No one has fairly done it better.
Arsenal have done it quite well in recent years. What have they actually achieved in that period? Nothing. They won an FA Cup. Yeah. And they might win the league this season, but that'll be at the end of a 5-year building process in which they've gotten to this stage. And while Liverpool have remained competitive throughout it, I don't understand where people benchmark, but I also understand that there's a hysteria around transfers. The team that wins the transfer window very, very rarely wins anything, let alone the Premier League and the Champions League in this country. Because City never win the transfer window. apart from Erling Haaland. But then I'm not even sure people who would have moved that summer. You know, like people, there probably would have been another club that everyone was going, oh, look what they're doing. Look at it's not. Try not to worry about it. It's too much.
I'm very much looking forward to the start of the season. I just think, like say, going back to tie it all back into Diaz stuff. I think,
sorry, one for that. I've seen someone say Arsenal spend money. Arsenal spend money because they've been playing catch up for years. So Liverpool spent money, built their squad, and had a sustained period of success with that. Whilst Arsenal were nowhere and had to spend money. Arsenal had guys on contracts. They were paying people's contracts off to try and shortcut their way to the top. I think Arsenal have done it in a really, really good way, but Arsenal are still not. Arsenal's best players are still not as good as Liverpool's best players, with the one exception being Saliba, and he's got loads of room to grow. But Saka's still, this season he will probably be as good as, maybe he'll overtake Salah, but that's again, Arsenal have been a grown force. Liverpool have been there the whole time, so I don't think it matters. I
think what happened is, like say, we're in a new phase, aren't we, where we're now trying to refresh the squad. And listen, they've done really.
We spent £150 million on midfielders in the last 2 years. We spent another £100 million, £120 million on refreshing the attack the season before that. People have got short memories.
No, I suppose we'll all find out how it all pans out. But to go back to the Diaz stuff, this is kind of the point we're making, is that Liverpool are in a position now where they can afford to lose players. They need to be adding to the squad. You would think that you're going to lose players, it's got to be squad players. So my question would be, even if you could get Anthony Gordon to go back to it, I think you just have to try and get him anyway. You do it and keep Luis Diaz.
I'm not sure. The thing is, if Diaz can be good on the right, I think you do. But if you're telling, I don't think Liverpool are going to have three players of a similar age bracket, Diaz a bit older, who all play left wing for us. I don't think we're going to own. If Diaz only plays left hand side and doesn't do anything on the right, I don't think we're going to own Gakpo,
what do you think the plan
Diaz,
was,
and Anthony Gordon, because I don't think you convince Anthony Gordon to come and.
But what do you think the plan was then when they were going to buy Gordon? Do you think it was to let Luis Diaz go? Liverpool were trying to buy Anthony Gordon?
Listen, quite possibly. And again, I don't know. I've got no idea. I've absolutely got no idea. But, you know, maybe Gordon could have been, maybe he's being shifted over to the right. I don't know. Maybe it is that thing of its versatility is going to be key to all this. That's one of the reasons I think Naoni's being like pushed forward, because he's played in the pivot, he's played more advanced towards the 10, he's played off the wing as well. Whereas Bobby Clark can't do that. So I think actually it might be that.
We'll keep an eye on the Luis Diaz stuff anyway, because it looks like, I reckon this one's going to rumble on for a while. I don't think this is the last one.
That's got like, what's the word, like saga written all over it.
Like Mo Salah last year, when everyone was convinced he was going until he wasn't going. I wonder if that's where we're heading down with Luis Diaz. It's a round up very, very quickly. I did speak to Paul Gorst on General Insight the other day. This morning, it's coming out. It's out on Redmen Plus now. He did say, like, he still expects Liverpool to be doing business in the next couple of weeks. Like,
I just, again, yeah, he's right. But we've saying this the whole time. My point is, because it's the thing, if you don't believe in Liverpool's ownership and the way they do things, then you should have a very low bar of expectation, which I have. I don't expect Liverpool to sign 3, 4, 5 players in the transfer window, so I'm never that wound up when they don't do it. And I'm casually surprised when we signed 4 players last summer, because obviously we needed to go and rebuild the midfield, and we did. So yeah, just set your bar low. Just this is I think, but it's talk like that, I think, gets in people's heads when we're going, I expect them to sign 2 or 3, and then they sign 1, and people go, well, where are the 2? Like, they've had 2 players stolen from them. Liverpool have not coming out. Tony Barrett is not sat at the press conference desk at the AXA saying, this summer Liverpool are signing 5 players, everyone, and you can take that to the bank. So yeah, hopefully, because again, I fucking love it when we sign footballers. It's dead exciting, it's dead interesting. I just love the excitement that comes with it. I mean, I remember we signed Djibril Cissé. It was the anniversary of him making his debut and scoring his debut goal. I was in New York, summer 2004. There was no way of watching that game. I remember going on like TalkSport to find out the score. And I found out Cissé had scored his first goal. Oh, like celebrating in front of a hotel lobby computer in New York, because that's how exciting it was that your debut striker had scored a goal for your club. Like, so yeah, hopefully they do, but I would suggest that, and I said this all along, and it's boring, I know I'm a fucking bore when I say this, if you can coach a better defensive structure and your young players improve and some of your best players stay a little bit fitter this season, Liverpool will be better than they were last year.
Fingers crossed, but like I say, we'll keep an eye on it for the rest of the window. Right, very much. Thanks very much to Paul. Thanks very much to you guys for watching.
Gonna go sit in an ice bath and cool.
Yeah, thanks very much for watching. Thanks for listening. Yeah, we'll be back with another new show tomorrow. See you later, everyone.